Mark asked if everyone could meet in 2 days to discuss the corporation. He rented a hall in Tel Aviv, and that would give everyone in Italy and Spain time to make their way there. It was time to build the company, move it from an idea to a physical entity. Also, he wanted to introduce Jerome to those who hadn't met him yet. Those currently at the hangar, with Julie and her team, arrived the next morning. Everyone else, most of who were in Tuscany, including Mike, made their way to the hangar where they boarded the 727. They arrived the next day in Tel Aviv. Kat, and Zoe arrived at the conference room early to set up a brunch table with pastries, fruit, water, coffee, and various fruit juices. Once everyone was seated, Mark stood up and said, "Hello everyone. Recently, several of us have participated in some work for the Israeli military. While doing so, we learned about 10 more second gens. These gens are in high positions within the IDF. One is a high-ranking general, General Levitt. Because of him, we have been given Israeli citizenship. Not only has he provided us citizenship, he has provided us with a couple financial opportunities. I'd tell you, but you know that any time we do something of that nature, it's on a need-to-know basis, but I will say those things have been very profitable, and through them, we have gained enough wealth to provide for all of us for the rest of our lives. I'm not talking about a small pension or retirement. I'm talking about genuine wealth. This money is currently residing in several secure accounts in an offshore bank. In the near future, we will invest this wealth into a corporation called the Israel Financial Group, based in Tel Aviv. Again thanks to General Levitt. Julie and her assistants will send out statements soon regarding investments and shares, and will act as the financial advisor for the new company until otherwise determined." Paris Lindell, one of the second gens, asked, "Are we going to stay here in Tel Aviv after this meeting? If not, how long are we going to stay in Tuscany? I'm ready to do something other than clean the vineyard." "I understand, Paris. It will only take a little while longer, probably 1 more month. Hold on, please. We need to establish the physical corporation first. Currently, the company only exists on paper. We all, as shareholders, will go into the business of investment banking. When I say we, I'm not saying any of you need to work for the company. You are and will be free to move on however you choose, but you're welcome to join the company should you want to do so. We could use you. For that reason, we don't want you moving around the world only to have to move again, should you come to work for the corporation." Paris asked, "What if we don't come to work for the company, but have other ideas?" "I understand some prefer that, but the first dividends won't be deposited into your accounts until the end of the month, so, unless you have the money to make such a move on your own, the money won't be there for you until then. We have to disperse those dividends in an organized manner. I guess I could last another month. What positions will be open in the corporation, and when will you be hiring?" "We'll need everything from financial managers to janitors. We'll put out a list of positions once we complete it. I think there will be some exciting positions available for anyone who wants to come to work for us." The room began talking among themselves. Mark presumed it was futile to interrupt, so he walked over to the table and poured himself a glass of water. He let them speak among themselves for the next 10 minutes. Maya Rhodes, the woman sitting next to Paris, asked a question, once the crowd became quiet. "What did you mean by dividends?" "Everyone in this room will receive dividends, based on each one's shares in the corporation, although the first payment will include a lump sum of $2 million. That will have to last you 1 year. After the first year, each of you will receive $165,000 monthly as dividends. So, before you leave today, get with Julie and her staff, and they will get you set up with banking here in Tel Aviv. You will have access to that account worldwide. At a later date, should you have something else in mind, contact Julie at that time. Don't take up her time today to do that. There's something else you might consider. If you don't come to work for the corporation, and you choose to go into business for yourself, we will help you, but we hope you build that company under the umbrella of the Israel Finance Group. We can work those details individually at a later date. I wanted to tell you should any be thinking of doing so." You are all free to live whatever lives you choose. That will not affect your dividends. Anyone who works for the company will receive a wage and dividends. We will provide for everyone. I hope this meeting will calm your nerves. I know there have been questions of concern. I hope those questions are resolved. He paused again to allow for audience conversation. Now, the real purpose of this meeting is to inform you all what our next steps will be to bring this company to life. Everyone should understand how we intend to make a future for us all. Our first step in bringing this about was to find someone to run the company for us. We couldn't have found a better person than Mr. Jerome Waters. Mark gestured for Jerome to stand up. Please meet Jerome Waters. He will become the CEO of Israel Finance Group. He was one of the top managers and attorneys with St. Paul. Half of the crowd moaned. Exactly, boo, but don't worry. He's no longer affiliated with St. Paul. Everyone in this room has probably heard his name. If you don't already know, trust me when I say, and I can't express enough, Jerome was the most important person helping us get where we are today. We wouldn't be in this situation if it were not for him. We wouldn't be free of St. Paul or the US government. The whole room clapped for him. Mark realized they were teasing Jerome. He spent the next hour explaining to the crowd what Jerome's role was. When he finished, they spent 2 hours filling out the board. Jerome will become the board chair, but they were lucky to get 12 members, because the main requirement to be a board member was, they needed to live in Israel. It appeared only a few planned to live in Israel. Mark called Jerome up front to answer questions. Other than Mark's long-winded speech, the rest of the meeting went by quickly. Jerome spent a short, awkward period answering a few questions and receiving even fewer suggestions. Other than selecting the rest of the board, the Gens just weren't interested in running a company. They were more interested in getting on with their new lives, and the group understood that. Everyone returned to Madrid, Rome, and Tuscany. Dee and Kat left to inspect the new properties they purchased. They needed to be furnished, and it turned out, Dee didn't get along with Kat any better than she did with Zoe when they were looking to purchase them. It was decided that Dee could furnish them herself. The group enjoyed a wonderful dinner their first evening back. Mike was being quiet, and Ramous asked him why. Ram, I've really enjoyed myself staying in Tuscany, especially making wine with Matthew. I loved the daily walks in the early evening. And, not to mention Rome is fantastic. But you know what? What? I miss the Oregon coast. That's all I think about lately. I'm going to move back and pick up my life. Perhaps contact some of my old friends in Portland. Have you decided when you're leaving? You know, everyone is going to miss you. I hope so. I'll certainly miss them. I'd like to leave within the next couple days. I've kind of become anxious about it. Okay, but before you go, I want to do something for you. You don't have to do anything. The only thing I would ask is that you let me take up residence in the bed and breakfast until I find a place. I'm going to do much better than that. Did you see that house Daniel, I bought, the one behind the Blue Gull Inn? Oh yeah. That's a beautiful place. You're going to let me stay there? No. I'm not going to let you stay there. I'm going to have Daniel sign the property over to you. Not only that. You have been more instrumental in the success of the Gens than anyone else, and everyone knows that. Zoe and I spoke with the group, and they have agreed to pay you an equal share of dividends that the Gens will receive. You will be a very rich man upon your return to the Oregon coast. I'm a bit beside myself. I don't know how to thank you guys. Mike, you worked for as much as anyone else. No thanks are necessary. I don't know why they didn't include you in the first place. They should have. During the rest of dinner, they chided Jerome for going to work for St. Paul of his own accord. He nervously laughed it off, but they loved him for the sacrifices he made for them too. Mike left 2 days later, after repeatedly thanking everyone. Jerome's first task was to purchase 2 buildings or building complexes in Israel. If there were none available, he needed to purchase property to build on. They also agreed the complexes should be in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The larger office will be for general operations, and the smaller office, in Jerusalem, would be for the gens themselves. The next day, Mark, D, and Jerome flew to Israel so Jerome could meet Aaron and General Levitt. Both the general and Aaron had already been casually looking for property for the corporation to purchase. Aaron said, "I found the perfect building for the Tel Aviv office. It's 10 stories with a park-like setting surrounding it. There's a fountain out front just before the main doors. The bank repossessed it last year from a hedge fund company. The leadership took off with all the investments, and now the property is in the hands of a bank trustee and he's eager to sell it." Jerome said, "Let's go inspect it now. It sounds interesting, but things are often explained and then seen, and ending up being two different things." He stared at Aaron. Aaron stared back, confused by his comment. "What?" Jerome broke out laughing. "Shall we go?" The general had other plans, so he didn't join them. The building was everything Aaron said it was. It was only 5 years old and beautifully modern. Jerome walked through every floor looking for bathrooms and counting the number of jacks throughout. It came with a beautiful view of the feather blue Mediterranean. Jerome said, "This complex is perfect. We don't need 10 floors, but I'm sure we will grow into it, or we can rent space." Mark and D agreed. D particularly liked it. That means Mark didn't really have a choice. He liked it anyway. Mark asked, "What's the asking price?" Aaron answered, "I'm not 100% sure. Let me call Carl and get him over here." When Carl arrived, he found them on the 10th floor looking out at the Mediterranean. "It's a beautiful view, isn't it?" Jerome answered, "Yes, it is. We've looked the building over and have questions. First, what's the asking price?" The original cost to build it was 80 million. The previous owners had paid the mortgage down to 20 million before they exited the country. I'll cut right to the chase, because I can tell by the bored look on your faces that you ask questions to get answers. So, without the standard sales pitch, we want 30 million for the whole complex. Jerome said, "That's stealing it. What were the utility and maintenance costs for the last 3 years the building was occupied?" Utilities have run just over 45,000 a month during that period. As far as maintenance goes, it's up to whoever owns the building and is a controllable overhead. Mark asked, "Do you have a recent inspection report on the complex?" "Yes, we had one done 6 months ago in preparation to sell it. Everything, I mean everything, was better than code. I intended to brag about it." Jerome said, "Your intention noted. We are interested. I think you should draw up the paperwork, but we need to run it by our board first. Do you have any other available properties in Jerusalem?" "I'd need to go back to the office and find out what's available. We have properties all over Israel, and dozens outside. I'll show you what properties we have in Jerusalem next time we meet." Mark said, "I'm certain we will buy this one. We'll work out the financial details once we have talked with our board, although they gave us the authority to make the decision without them. I'm including them to be polite and provide them with a sense of importance. We will get together with you tomorrow, and we can sign all the paperwork for the title and transfer of funds to your financial institution. See you tomorrow?" "Yes, sounds good. How about 2 p.m.? "We will meet you at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Aaron will bring us over." Carl thanked them for their business and left the building. D said to Mark, "You made the decision awful fast. What if the board doesn't agree? What if we don't agree?" "Oh, don't worry, sweetheart, if the board doesn't want us to purchase this building, I'll purchase it myself and rent out the space." Jerome spoke up, "Wait. I expect you to include me in on that purchase." "You dog. I'm confident the corporation will buy this complex. There's no reason they wouldn't. It's perfect for us." Everyone agreed and expressed their excitement to give Israel Finance Corporation Incorporated a home. Mark contacted the board members that evening, and they all accepted his decision to purchase the property. They met Carl at 2 p.m., with all his lawyers, representing the real estate company and a title agency. Jerome reviewed the paperwork and approved it for signing. Everyone looked at him until he realized he needed to sign the paperwork himself, with the others only witnessing his signature. Mark called Julie and had her transfer 30 million into the realtor's account. Now, they needed to find another lessor complex in Jerusalem, maybe Hebron, one or the other. Carl pointed out that real estate was at a premium in Jerusalem and 10 times more costly than Tel Aviv. Anyway, they couldn't agree on a property in either city, so they'd look into it another day. Jerome was eager to hire needed management. Also, he wanted to rethink his security detail for the building. Mark, Truman is too valuable. He needs to be more than just a security officer. To hire Truman as a security officer would represent a cut in pay, a demotion for him. He needs to be in a higher position. I loved the detail you first set me up with, and want those three to run security at the complex. I want to ask Truman to join me in management, helping run the corporation. Boss, thanks for including me, but it's your decision. That's what we hired you for. Fantastic. Now, I think I should hire you too. For what? I will hire you to follow me around and remind me why I'm in this position. You're too funny, but on a more serious note, I don't intend to work for the corporation. Once it's up and functional, I plan to take a long vacation with Dee. We're planning to go stay in St. Martin for a while, and travel while collecting our benefits. If you're planning to change your position, make preparations now. Don't wait until the last minute. People are counting on you, Mark. I'm aware of that, and don't worry. I won't leave without you taking my place. You are more than capable of picking up my role. That will be expected of you once you're comfortable. Clearly, my role was temporary until a more permanent person, you, could take over. Jerome thought about what Mark said for the rest of the day and eventually concluded Mark was right. The next morning, Jerome called on his friends and security detail to follow him around. He wanted to spend time with them. He brought in 2 of the hackers and 3 other gens, Marion, Fred, and Jean, to furnish the building and set up networking. It took just over a month to furnish 3 floors, with Israel Finance Group settling into floors 6 through 9. Truman, after he and Jerome took a long walk, said he was not ready to work for anyone. Most of the gens came to the same conclusion. Jerome figured it might take a couple of years for the gens to get bored and come to work for the corporation. He wasn't going to hold his breath, so he leased the empty offices on the lower floors to other tenants. 7 gens came to work for him, and they spent most of their first month brainstorming about how to get the company off the ground. Jerome decided to use them as outside agents for the company, to act as auditors and go into businesses who asked for loans to determine whether they would be a profitable investment by the company, or not. Julie was busy in Rome and had already determined they would make no loans for less than 7% interest. She could invest the gens' money within the banking system and gain that kind of return. Also, 7% was an excellent introductory rate for the young corporation. Julie turned out to be more important than anyone realized, as she, in her position with her bank, could send certain high-quality businesses to the corporation for short-term business loans, and often at 1 or 2 percentage points above their startup rate. Also, within the banking world there were requests made by banks for overnight loans to cover shortfalls, because they fell below their minimum deposits required for each bank to hold at any given time. Worldwide, there were billions in loans requested by the banks every night. Based on covering those shortfalls, the corporation will realize a profit of at least 13% annually. Many of those requests were banks which dealt in large, secure, hidden accounts. When there was a withdrawal or transfer of funds, they often resulted in a shortfall. Because of that shortfall, they paid a nice rate to cover it. The risk was small because most of the banks requesting the short-term loans were protected by large, wealthy central banks. Julie knew who to trust. It was like shooting money in a barrel. Jerome put 4 of the gens on those investments specifically, and Julie gave them access to a secure site which allowed them to offer their services to those banks, although she had to limit them to a $500 million ceiling. They could have invested the whole of the gens' funds in the overnight investments, but the company already determined to go another direction. Jerome hoped to get in on the ground floor of new and exciting startups. Not only should the company make loans, they should purchase a percentage of those exciting companies, either through direct ownership or stocks. Things were almost going too fast. He needed to hire more people to help the Gens, but they needed to be Gens because of the covert nature of the loans being made. He needed to hire several highly professional investment bankers to oversee the purchase and investment side of the company, those who could read the tea leaves. Aaron pointed Jerome to two investment bankers, one an Israeli by the name of Israel Jacobs, and the other an Ethiopian woman named Halima Michael. Both were shooting stars in investment and finance. They worked for Barclays Investment Bank in Tel Aviv. Israel was another Israeli general. Halima was a smart and beautiful Ethiopian woman. Matchmaker Aaron had hopes of the two hitting it off. Aaron knew and recruited Israel on behalf of Jerome. Jerome set up an interview with Halima. He had no clue Aaron was trying to set him up. Jerome took an office on the 9th floor. He left the 10th floor for conferences and banquets. He hired a new secretary, Linda House. She was a transplant from the US. Her husband was Jewish, and they made Aliyah 3 years ago. "Mr. Waters, your 1 o'clock is here." "Okay, send her in." Jerome walked around the desk to pick up a pen he dropped. Halima opened the door and knocked him on the floor. She tried to help him up, but instead, she fell on him. He stood, and when he went to help her up, she looked straight into his eyes. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow, if you like. Meet me here at 9 a.m., and I'll show you your office and introduce you to everyone. Did you want to bring your secretary with you?" "What? I thought if you liked your current secretary with Barclays, we could hire her for you, and she could also come with you." "Oh, I would. I'll ask her." Jerome helped her up and opened the door for her. "I'll meet you here tomorrow." "Okay, see you then." Jerome watched her all the way to the elevator. Linda commented, "I didn't realize it was spring." "What? What did you say?" "Nothing. I was just talking to myself. I do that a lot." "Oh, me too. You know, she didn't even ask what the salary was." "Sir, you must have had quite an effect on her." "Perhaps. She's perfect for the job." Halima met him at his office precisely at 9 a.m. the next morning. He showed her to her office and asked, "Will your secretary be joining you?" "I don't know." She asked about the pay, and if it was lower, she wouldn't come. "I guess she's not too dedicated." If her new salary was higher, she asked if you would pay for the taxi over. "So, I guess it depends on you." "All right, Halima, I didn't just hire you because you're pretty. You are, of course, but I had already vetted you before I even met you. I didn't need an interview to hire you. Your reputation was the only interview I needed. Now, it's important to keep my talent happy. If you want your secretary here, I'll offer her 25% above her current salary and match her benefits, and if that isn't sufficient, I'll increase that offer until she says yes. So, it's up to you now. Anyway, Israel will start on Monday. I stole the both of you. Barclays will be angry." She answered, "I have worked with Israel for 4 years. He's a good investment banker, loan officer. We are two of Barclays' best. Mr. Waters, I vetted you too. To have such a position with St. Paul as you did is rather amazing at your age." "Wait, what do you mean at my age?" "Well, I meant nothing. I wanted to say what an accomplishment. Barclays has arranged contracts with St. Paul regarding a couple research companies here in Israel. St. Paul often backed small companies they were interested in with loan guarantees. We got 1 or 2 years ago, backed by Therm. Over the next couple of days, Halima and Israel got themselves situated. Julie drafted Jerome into another project. "Jerome, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we collected 2 accounts a couple months back that we need some legal help to complete. One was an investment account worth just over $4 billion, and the other was a stock portfolio worth about $9 billion for a total of $13 billion USD. We have taken our time to move on it so we could have a legal team in place to collect them. We've been sitting on the $4 billion for a while now, and we're ready to put it to use. When completed, Israel Finance Group will receive half of those funds and the IDF will take the rest. Are you available? Also, I request that you increase the dollar amount for overnight investments to $1.5 billion. Those overnighters are growing and are too lucrative to invest pocket change. Julie, I knew about the two accounts, but no one told me about their status or if they were available to the corporation. You mentioned we will receive half of the $4 billion, what's the nature and status of the other, which I assume is tied up in stock since you called it a stock portfolio? It is. We need you to put a team together so we can make a collection, but we didn't want to overwhelm you. We gens are capable of such legal matters, but we don't have anyone licensed in the field. I can't, because of my position, involve myself, but I have 7 gens who have this all figured out. So, we need you to lead the group. They can fill you in, and you will only have to act as a representative of Bank Hapulian. The bank president, Leonard Cohen, is a good friend of General Levitt's. He's been an asset in covert operations in the past. He's a nationalist who wants to help Israel succeed. Half of the money in stocks will go to the IDF. Cohen has drawn up all the legal paperwork to transfer the funds from Holstein's estate, the stock, to private investors listed with the bank. Levitt is using money we previously took from Holstein and paying through the bank to purchase the stock. He will be acting as the secret investors. In the end, the money will go right back to the IDF through a dummy Holstein account I set up for them. We need you there to represent the Hapulian Bank and present proof of payment for the stocks. Then, you will sign for and receive the stocks. The sale is so big that the bank managing the portfolio wanted legal representation when the sale was complete, in case anything was criminal, they wouldn't be held liable. If that weren't hilarious. What's hilarious? The president of the bank is as crooked as it gets. If he gets wind of what we're doing, I'll just blackmail him into compliance. So, you see, it's just a cakewalk made to look like a legal circus. Call me if he gives you any trouble. Okay, when do you plan on making this transfer? We're thinking Friday. You need to fly to Germany to complete the sale. I have no clue why they chose Germany, and that's unnerving, so take your security detail. Let me take this opportunity to say you have 3 competent people on your security detail. I would use them anywhere. Yes, I'm fortunate to have them, and they have become my good friends to boot. Friday will work. I'll fly in and meet with your team on Thursday. Is one day enough time for them? I can go on Wednesday if needed. I have a fantastic VP of operations in Israel Jacobs. Have you met him yet? I have not, but I heard he's one of the Israeli gens. Yes, he is, and a highly intelligent one. He can handle anything I can. You can talk to him about anything. In fact, call him and introduce yourself. I might. Thursday will be fine. It will be a simple review for you. When you're done, let my team take the stocks. They'll bring them back to Rome. They have been observing the markets since we came across these stocks and have been working on a plan for slipping them into the market. Julie, are any of those stocks worth holding on to? We're an investment bank and we could offer the more valuable ones to future clientele. With these, we're better off converting them into cash. Cash isn't traceable like the stocks. If anyone or any agency were to get suspicious, let the trail lead to a dead end, and not us. One of my assistants, Bella, is an expert stockbroker. She can handle the load and sell them off in a couple weeks. All right, you should have taken this position. You're more than capable. It wasn't offered, and I wouldn't have taken it if it were. I like where I'm at because I can do so much for my friends here. Jerome, please stop being insecure about what you're doing for us. You're the right man for the position. We all knew that much about you already. I believe you, Julie. Thank you. No problem, I'll have Belle get in contact with you and give you the hotel and time to meet on Thursday. Is your passport up to date? Oh, one last thing. Mr. Cohen is planning on calling you. He wants to talk with you before you leave, I guess check you out. That was one condition of him helping us. Truthfully, he wanted to make sure he wasn't getting involved with an idiot. Jerome, this is the part where I laugh. Godspeed, my friend. Goodbye. Jerome had 5 more interviews on Thursday morning. He turned them over to Azrael and Hulima. Azrael was up to speed on everything. Hulima was still in the dark, but a competent banker. He already made Azrael a VP and was planning on making Hulima one in the next couple of weeks. He also needed to figure out how to bring her into the group. That will take more than just a casual conversation and require the rest of the group, including the General and Aaron, to attend. When Jerome and the others arrived at the meeting, Evan Parcels, the bank president, and several high-stepping lawyers confronted them about the sale. Parcels thought things were just a little suspicious. Jerome presented them with the paperwork from the Israeli bank, but they continued to be suspicious. Jerome insisted, "We have all the proper paperwork for the purchase of the stocks. We have shown you the investment documents from our investors who offered the funds to the Hapulian Bank in Tel Aviv. What seems to be the problem? We've not heard one word from Mr. Holstein, who requested when he first opened this portfolio that any sale be conducted here in Germany, and he was to be present. You already know Mr. Holstein is dead, and we have an arrangement with his legal trustee to purchase these stocks. Frankly, if I had known why you made us come to Germany to complete this sale, I might have explained to you where you can put that idea. Listen, Mr. Waters. We can hold the sale of these stocks up indefinitely. I'm at a loss, Evan. What's it you're really after? I don't trust you or your group, Mr. Waters, and this sale is moving too fast to be on the up and up." Jerome knew Parcels was trying to cut a deal for himself. Julie told him he was a crook. "1 minute, Mr. Parcels, what's your cell number?" Evan gave Jerome his number and asked, "Why do you need my cell number?" "1 second, and we can clear this up." Jerome left the room and called Julie. "This guy, Parcels, is playing us. I believe he wants a cut of the sale and is trying to leverage us into giving him one. I have so much on Mr. Parcels. Get his cell, and I'll convince him with a few informational details to lighten up his good nature. I have the number already. I'm 1 step ahead of you." Jerome gave Julie the number and waited 3 minutes before he returned to the room. After several distractive comments, Evan Parcels' cell rang. He answered it, and half a minute later, his face turned white, well whiter. "All right, I've been advised by my superiors to complete this sale, and told to wish Mr. Waters and his colleagues a good day. Thank you for your purchase and have a nice trip back to Israel." As Parcels and his group were leaving the room, Jerome said, "Thank you, Mr. Parcels. I hope we can do business again." Let's not get ahead of ourselves. As the door closed behind them, Belle spent the next half an hour thumbing through several certificates and confirmation of electronic transfers on her laptop. She was confident the certificates were authentic, and the proper transfers were made. They congratulated each other and left for the hotel. While Jerome was in Germany, Hulima and Azrael hired 3 more investment gurus. When Jerome got back to the office, he hired Roger Williams to run human resources and Elaine Ford as a property manager. Both migrated to Israel within the last 5 years and were well qualified for the positions. Jerome needed to delegate more rather than trying to do things himself. He also went looking for a team of legal staff and several internal accountants. The 3 floors were filling up fast, but Jerome's workload was getting smaller, to making only the major decisions as it should be. On the personal front, he liked Hulima and told her so. Afterward, they were observed more than a few times going to lunch together. Sometimes they were seen sitting next to the fountain talking for hours. It was an office room where he met her family, and per Jerome's request, they allowed his mother and father to settle in Israel. So, Hulima met his parents too. Jerome's mother was ecstatic when they asked her to join an archaeology group who was digging up Israel's past. He hired his father in maintenance. He was overqualified, being an engineer, but he wanted to keep busy and near his son. Jerome was eager to fill up the rest of the building and made it Elaine's top priority. He figured the rent from the empty floors would cover a lot of the expenses of the building and more. It surprised him why the previous owners just didn't rent it out rather than run off. They lost $60 million. They could have made a great deal of money renting space, because it was at a premium and scarce. It was no problem for Elaine to find renters, although they had to meet the approval of Jerome. He was cautious about her rented space in the building. The corporation was already profitable, and Julie was a big reason for its fast financial growth. She and her team converted the stocks, which brought in another $10 billion USD. That was $1 billion over the estimated value, and half was made available to the corporation as needed. Also, Jerome was putting his brain to work. He had a good sense of business about him and was hooking up with other business owners and leaders. As Truman suggested, the Gens were reconsidering and asking for positions within the corporation. Jerome figured out how to use them outside the country as auditors. They'd fly into Tel Aviv once a month for training, and being quick learners, they returned to their current countries helping to build a sound international reputation. At home, Jerome contributed frequently to one or another charity, making a name for himself and the company throughout the city, throughout all of Israel. Zoe, Ramous and the group arrived at the end of the month for an important board meeting. Mark and Dee did not accompany them. The couple left for St. Martin a couple weeks earlier. They wanted to check the property on the island to see whether they should live there. The rest of the group came a day early to meet Mel and Aaron to go sightseeing. Zoe asked Julie to fly in so they could have a meeting prior to the board meeting. Zoe and Ramous stood looking out of the 10th floor window at the Mediterranean. Ramous turned to Jerome and said, "This is a nice view of them." "Yes, it is. That's why I kept this floor for meetings and banquets, but we are filling up fast, and I suspect we will need to move up here in the near future." Once everyone arrived, Zoe asked them to sit at the conference table that was set up for their meeting. This group of people, when I say group, we're including Mark and Dee, control 53% of the funds for and outside of this corporation. Julie, could you please update us on what those funds are? Sure. This is the breakdown of funds we have invested in banks around the world and where it came from. First investment made by Melissa and Catherine was $263 million. Both kept $200 million in their own personal accounts. The second investment by the group was $2.5 billion, the third investment by the group was $6 billion, and the fourth and final investment by the group was $7 billion, which came to a total investment of $15.763 billion USD. Over the last 7 months, the Israel Finance Group has profited from those funds in the amount of $743 million USD. She stopped and was going to sit when Zoe asked her to continue regarding the stocks. Jerome Waters, the CEO of Israel Finance Group Incorporated, secured the Holstein stocks. The proceeds should go to the corporation. That gives the corporation $5.743 billion in liquid assets. Of those assets, $1.5 billion will be used for overnight shortfall loans controlled by the corporation's short-term loan management group. The remaining $4.243 billion will be available to the corporation for investment loans and other business ventures. I have set up accounts for both and will give the details to Jerome to do with as he sees fit. I have already transferred the funds into the respective accounts. Jerome, I have already given the information to your crew so they won't miss any opportunities. Okay, thanks Julie. Next, I set up an investment account for the Gens and have transferred the $3 billion USD into that account. Those monies will eventually be paid back to the group as the corporation replaces it, based on profits paid out as dividends. The account itself will generate more than needed to pay out the $2 million annual return on investment for each general. A contingency will be kept in the account to cover unexpected shortfalls and keep the dividends secure for the future. Investment income above the contingency will go back to the group until the $3 billion is paid back. I expect to recognize better than the 7% return annually. Now for the group, I've created new accounts for each of you. Each account holds $1.294 billion USD. At a minimum 7% return provides each account holder just over $90 million USD annually. I will get returns of better than 7%, so it will actually be higher. Other questions? Ramous' face turned beet red. He never was concerned about money because he had more than enough to live a comfortable life, but this kind of wealth nearly made him pass out. It confused him when he realized it had no impact on the Gens in the room. He and Zoe will earn over $180 million per year in investment income. He almost wanted to go out and buy expensive ice cream. Julie explained the situation in such a way no one had questions. Zoe said to Jerome, "Jerome, this is where the rubber meets the road. Everyone wants to move on with their lives. For some, that means distancing themselves from every bad memory of St. Paul and their previous lives. Most of our friends have had enough. Even this corporation upsets them. Many gens want to move someplace quiet and dream of a home and garden. We also have several couples who plan to marry. That's what this was all about. It's about what we can provide for them. They've been through enough. It's now up to you, Jerome, to make this company the titan it can be under your leadership." When the board met the next night, the first item of business was the group. The group will no longer hold board membership. So, they needed to choose 12 new board members. Julie provided a financial report for the corporation only. The company was surpassing all expectations, and will have a successful year. The minutes reflected the need for a manager to control the assets of the corporation. Azrael asked if he could have that position, and they appointed him. The group left the next morning for Madrid,